Virginia Harger, Chairman of the Shelton Planning and Zoning Commission. Today is Wednesday, July 29th, and the special meeting of the Shelton Planning and Zoning Commission is hereby called to order. This meeting is categorized as a special meeting, as it's being held at a time other than when our regular meeting would be scheduled. Would everyone present in the auditorium please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, and I invite all who are participating remotely to do the same. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I'll start off with a roll call. When your name is called, please verbally indicate you are present, and I'll begin with those who are participating remotely. Commissioner Parkins?
Present.
Commissioner Ticky? Mr. Panico, our consultant? Commissioner Parkins? Present. Commissioner Ticky? Mr. Panico, our consultant? 10. All right, I'll continue on with those who are in the auditorium. Commissioner Kelly?
Present.
Commissioner Motto? Here. Myself, Commissioner Harger. Mr. Rossetti, our administrator.
Present.
Mr. O'Neill, our assistant administrator and CEO. Mr. Nappy, our downtown projects coordinator.
Here.
Sarah Vanassos, our recording secretary. Stephanie Charbonneau, our stenographer. I'll go back to Commissioner Ticky. Are you with us? Okay. All right, Mr. Panico. And for the record, Commissioners Wodomski, alternate Commissioner Laskos, and alternate Commissioner Uso all indicated to me they would not be available to participate in today's meeting. A couple of points before continuing with this morning's agenda. This is the Commission's 12th meeting being done via a live streaming process. Commissioners participating in person and remotely will be able to make comments throughout the meeting so that we're not all talking across each other, and our recording secretary is clear as to who is speaking. Commissioners are asked to please say Madam Chair and then your name. As soon as the chair recognizes you, you are free to speak. Being done via a live streaming
Tony
process.
Panico.
Commissioners participating in person and remotely will be able to make comments and then your name. As soon as the chair recognizes you.
Join the meeting.
Please be aware that you may hear an echo. Participating remotely are asked to be aware and remember that microphones on computers will pick up ambient sound, which will be heard in the auditorium throughout the meeting through the PA system, including movement of papers, phones ringing, and conversations if others are in the room. So if at all possible, and you have the ability to do so, please mute the audio on your computer. Today's agenda includes public hearings. And before we proceed, I'd like to remind those present and those watching from a remote location where we are in the public hearing protocol for this application. Protocol for public hearings was previously reviewed by Corporation Counsel, who indicated to me that it is compliant with the executive orders issued by the governor. It's fair for those attending in person or watching from a remote location. And just a reminder too, referring back to the governor's executive orders, all present in the auditorium must wear face masks unless they are at the podium speaking. And even then, if you can keep in mind, we prefer that you do so. The chair would like to know for the record that the public hearing for application 20-07 opened on May 20th and was continued to June 17th.
Jimmy Ticky.
Join the meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Ticky. At the May 20th and June 17th public hearings for application 20-07, the applicant made its presentation and commission members had the opportunity to ask questions during and after the applicant's presentation. The applicant had the opportunity to answer those questions at that time or to wait until today's continuation. After the applicant completed his presentation at the May 20th public hearing and answered questions from the commission, one member of the public present in the auditorium who wished to address the commission on that application was given the opportunity to do so. At the continuation of the public hearing for 20-07 on June 17th, 5 members of the public present in the auditorium who wished to address the commission on that application were also given the opportunity to do so. After both public hearings and until 24 hours prior to today's resumption of the public hearing, members of the public had the ability to submit questions and comments to the Planning and Zoning Office via email, postal mail, or in person. At today's resumption of the public hearing for application 2007, any comments submitted from the public within the time frame for submission will be acknowledged for the record. The Chair will then recognize anyone from the public who further wishes to address the commission on application 2007. Those from the public attending today who choose to address the commission need to clearly write their name and address on the sign-up sheet that's by the podium. This is to assist the recording secretary and stenographer when doing the minutes and transcripts of public hearings. Members of the public addressing the commission need to be mindful of the following. All comments or questions are to be directed to the chair and to the chair only, not to the applicant and/or his associates. No dialogue is permitted between the public and the applicant or any of the applicant's associates. All comments from the public should address specific criteria of the zoning regulations and the merits of the application. All comments from the public should be new information and not a repeat of comments previously presented. Unless a member of the public has new comments to or questions of the chair, members of the public who wish to address the commission are asked to briefly indicate whether or not they are in agreement with the previous speaker and not repeat the same testimony. Members of the public are expected to practice appropriate etiquette by being quiet, observant, and respectful. Disruptive attendees may be asked to leave. After all members of the public who are in attendance today finish addressing the commission, the applicant will be given the opportunity to respond to public comments or questions. The chair will then ask if any member of the commission has any questions for the applicant. After any questions are presented by the commission, the applicant will be given the opportunity to answer those questions. Almost done. After the applicant and/or his associates have concluded the presentation, they've answered all questions, they've addressed all concerns from the commission and/or public, and if no further information is needed by the commission, the chair will ask for a motion to close the public hearing. If the commission feels further information is needed, the chair will ask for a motion to keep the public hearing open. At a future meeting of the commission, after each public hearing is closed, the commission will discuss a specific application, and the chair will poll the commission for a consensus on how to proceed. And a reminder to the commission that once the public hearing has opened and until it is closed, commissioners are not permitted to make any public comment, discuss any part of the applicant presentation, or receive additional information from anyone. So we'll begin with the continuation of the public hearing for application 2007. And I just want to ask Mr. Brady if any further comments were received from the public after the continuation of the public hearing on June 17th.
We received 2 additional comments, both reiterated comments previously made before the public. One was from Linda Todd, and one was from Louise Rayon. They discussed, both of them discussed pollution, needless traffic, the image of Bridgeport Avenue and wanting a suburban life, and less development.
Go ahead, Attorney Thomas.
Excuse me, Chairwoman, this is Commissioner Ticky. I just wanted to report that I joined at 10:04. I'm not sure if you heard me join. Thank you.
Yes, I did. Thank you, Commissioner Ticky. I did acknowledge you, but thank you for...
Likewise, Madam Chairman.
Yes,
Tony
I heard you,
Panico.
Mr. Panico. Yes,
I'm
we
here.
have Mr. Panico. Thank you. We got you. So, Attorney Thomas, you were about to make some comments?
There was another email we received in between, I believe, the name of the person, but it had 2 attachments. It's on, I think it's on the website, in between the 2, and it had some detailed spill documents, which we're going to address today.
Right. I meant to clarify, Madam Chair. These 2 emails were received on Sunday and Monday. We did not have time to post these to the website. Everything else It's on the website.
It's on the website, has been provided to us.
Yeah, for the members of the public that, are unaware, it's a staff person in City Hall that has the responsibility of checking a particular location on a shared folder between himself and the commission, administrator, and, that's how the material gets, uploaded to the city's website. And that is a part-time staffer. So, first of all, can I, Attorney Thomas, can I just check with the public?
Well, we didn't respond to that.
Okay, so we'll pick up from that.
Yeah, there were certain things that weren't on the website, so what, if the public is on, we can respond summarily, but we are responding to a lot of the comments that were made, plus commissioner comments, plus commissioner suggestions. I have passed out the, PowerPoint, which is a compilation of everything that's been submitted, and also members of the public were given, those that have it were given copies. I had a few extra copies, and I gave it to them. So it's not our intention, Dominic Thomas, Cohen and Thomas, 315 Main Street, Derby, Connecticut, representing the applicant. As you mentioned, this is our third public hearing on this, matter, and stating for the record that we will not be repeating our prior presentation. Obviously, I will tell you that, if there is, any questions, if there is any need to go into the traffic PowerPoint, which was again handed out in paper, or the other PowerPoints, I have them on the memory stick. I can go to them. Right now, what you will see, mainly when we get to Mr. Shepherd, is you will see a presentation that addresses some of the concerns, addresses traffic, and most importantly, addresses the issues of drainage that were brought up. At the last public hearing, I was prepared to address the first public comment received, which was a letter from Maureen Magner, and Mr. Yanis was prepared to address an email on traffic. He did file a report, but at that point, we discovered that neither one of those had been posted to the website. I will briefly address Maureen Magner's comments, asking what the zone is, and making some representation. I do believe that her comments, she was a bit confused as to the location of the property. She asked what zone it was in. It's an R1 zone. She referenced the POCD. And I do think it's interesting, as we presented it, it is a isolated island of R1, so to speak, in between Huntington Street and Bridgeport Avenue. On your POCD, it's listed for Office of Light Industrial, despite the fact that it's next door to an office building that is, I believe, close to 60% vacant. And it is adjacent, a bright red commercial, because it is adjacent to the residence inn. So we believe, honestly, this is a site, we can honestly stand up before you and say, it's a site perfectly located for the PDD process, because you cannot imagine in any way, shape, or form that
The mic just...
You're on. It's on.
Yeah, but he's not coming through.
I was going to put it back on again, it just went off. All right, well, anyway, I'll just talk louder. It is a site that you cannot imagine anyone,
You always have glitches.
it's me.
No. My father used to say that about his watches. Oh, you have to...
Definitely.
Going over there.
It works momentarily when you put it in.
Testing.
Yes.
Anyway, it is a site that, one cannot imagine somebody putting a single, single-family home on. So we believe it is perfectly, suited. I do want to reference the comment, and I know I'm getting old, I know I forget things, but, funeral home a few years ago on this site. And I know at times that can be geographically challenged. I don't recall it. I did a funeral home in the 1980s. Down the site where Nichols Avenue breaks off of Huntington Street, way down in Huntington Center. So for the late Joseph Petraro, he did an application. So I don't think it was anywhere near here. At the prior meetings, we presented a comprehensive traffic report. And Giannis went through his presentation. Again, if Commissioners want it on the screen, I could. I don't think it's necessary. An email was received subsequent to that point from Michael McCoy, and a report was presented from Craig Yanis and was submitted. And again, this didn't make it onto the website, and Mr. Yanis will address it usually after my presentation. With respect to the traffic issue, I will point out that Mr. Panico and some of the commissioners had suggestions at the last meeting, which have been incorporated onto the on-site. These suggestions related to the Huntington Street exit, and they related to the traffic within the complex. And those have been addressed, and those have been addressed and will be addressed specifically by Alan Shepard when he reviews his presentation, which is part of the PowerPoint. Most of the public comments that were submitted were from the Beaver Dam Lake Association and individuals. Some of them sent to chair. I will tell you that when we had the updated drainage and information, I emailed it to the association president, asking that they would have it ahead of time, approximately 3 weeks ago or so. And one of them submitted this other email, submitted the spill report, submitted the statewide gasoline spill report, over 100 pages or so, plus the shuttle spill report, which was filed. And Alan will address that in the precautions, but the only thing I want to say about it is, when you get these documents, sometimes you're looking at them, I'm not going to use that, but it's important to read them. Because most of the spills, and I'm familiar with this, my father owned a gas station and on Route 34 in Orange, across from Richmond Country Club. And for years, much as this day as my mother, I did help him occasionally pumping gas. And I know about spills that take place. And over the years, BMP, as management practices, have been put forth over and over again and enhanced to protect against them. But the whole premise of this is you can't have a gas station that eventually, and we will discuss that eventually, the claim is that any spill will get into where the drainage goes. Basically, the claim is to be on the right. Drainage. All drainage goes in eventually through the stormwater system, through the wetlands and the water. And you can look to see whether or not there's been any issue. One of the prime examples you have in Shelton is what was known as the Kelly Mark, almost right on the Farm Road River. You also have several gas stations along the Wisconsin. And while you can look through those addresses and see a spill of a few gallons here, a few gallons there, you can look through the Shelton thing and not see any lines. The only one that references a river is the spill that took place from a boat into the Wisconsin, someone on a boat. But Alan will address the issue of how we have addressed that issue, how all gas stations address it, to protect the surrounding environment. Alan will also comprehensively respond to the responses and to the engineer's comments, which were geared towards the final site development plan stage, but Alan has chosen to respond a little bit more. So with that, to just go over his brief one and a half page report, Craig Yanis, I believe it's on the phone.
Yep, I'm here.
Craig?
Yep.
Okay. Just briefly review your report, that you responded to Mr. McCoy's email.
Mr. Yanis, please identify yourself for the record.
Yep, this is Craig Yanis, project manager at Ty and Bond. And so, as Dominic mentioned, I'm going to go over the comment email. There was basically two main concerns, and we submitted a detailed response on June 12th. So the first concern was about the driveway on Huntington Street. The second was about the current traffic levels versus the normal conditions with what's going on today. So for the first comment for the driveway on Huntington, we clearly understand the concerns with Huntington Street, and we carefully analyzed all aspects of the existing and future conditions to make sure that there's adequate traffic operations that meet current zoning standards and engineering standards. Aligning the driveway with isinglass is good engineering practice. It reduces the number of intersections and potential conflicts between vehicles. So we thought that was a good location for it. It also removes the large curb cut that's there now. There's a driveway with a parking area that's existing. So we'll be replacing that with one standard width driveway directly across from isinglass. As I mentioned in our previous presentations, our capacity analysis show that the traffic engineering or the traffic entering the driveway and Isinglass Road operate efficiently at level service A and B during the peak hours. And traffic exiting Isinglass operates at acceptable level service D in the peaks. There are moderate delays exiting the driveway, but the queue analysis shows that there's 1 to 2 vehicles expected in the queue at any given time, and the driveway has sufficient room to store these vehicles. In addition to the traffic analysis, we also conducted a collision history and intersection site distance analysis that's included in our study. And it shows that the existing conditions at Isinglass and the site driveway that's there now do not exhibit any significant collision patterns. And the site driveway is expected to provide intersection site distance that meets the observed travel speeds, the regulations for the observed travel speeds on Huntington Street. The final piece is we do recommend that the vegetation along the site frontage and within the city right of way be regularly maintained in order to maximize the site distance. Should the mature trees that are there on the left and right side within the city right of way pose an intersection site distance concern following the construction of the driveway, removal of the trees should be considered to make sure that we have a sight line that works. So moving to the second comment was about understanding the traffic data and the observations with the current COVID situation. As I mentioned at the previous hearing, the traffic counts were taken in January prior to the impacts of COVID. We collected both AM and PM peak period turning movement counts at the site driveways as well as at the intersection of Bridgeport Avenue and Huntington Street. So that was 7 to 9 in the morning and 4 to 6 in the afternoon. We also took daily and hourly traffic volumes and speeds on both Bridgeport Avenue and Huntington Street for a 3-day period in January. And finally, we have extensive knowledge of the operations of the study area. Ty and Bond's office is located at 1000 Bridgeport Avenue, just half a mile up the street from this site. My commute and my colleague who helped me prepare the study both commute through this intersection and this study area on a daily basis. And through this, we've observed the traffic flow during the peak hours and other times of the day pretty much continuously for many years. So based on our data collection and our observations, we have a vested and comprehensive understanding of the current normal and historic conditions within the study area. So that's basically it, responding to those 2 comments within that email.
Thank you, Mr. Yanis. I did want to know, I went back yesterday when I was reviewing the materials for today's meeting, and I checked, I think it was AccuWeather.com, for what the weather conditions were in January and February, and specifically the 14th through the 17th were all sunny days. They were, 2 of them were in the 50s, one was high 30s, one was in the mid-20s. But then, from the 20th through the 24th, again, we had sunny conditions, in the 20s, 30s, and 40s, so it wasn't as if there was any, winter storm that would have, impeded any travel. So that's a pretty good, chance,
Yep.
time for
And,
those
and
10
I,
hours.
yeah, thank you. I'd like to add that also, in addition to that, we obviously monitor that when we do the traffic counts, but we also look at historic data from the state. So we've done that. And on top of that, we also have 3 traffic studies in the area that we also utilize the information for. So they had counts, they had information about the study area, and that was Fountain Square, Shelter Ridge, and then the development of the plaza at 899 Bridgeport Avenue. So we had a lot of data to work with here, and we made sure that we were consistent with all those and made sure we had an accurate data set to work from.
Okay, that's very good. Anything else, Mr. Yamas?
That's it, unless there's any questions.
Any of the commissioners here in the auditorium have any questions for Mr. Yanis? Commissioners Tiki or Parkins, do either of you have any questions? Janico?
I do
This
not.
is Commissioner.
Not at this time.
I just wanted to just revisit the, I just have a concern about if someone accessed this through Huntington Street or vice versa, Bridgeport Ave, and using this lot as a cut through, and if that's been taken into consideration in traffic, and what that would mean for this development, and then also traffic coming onto the other road.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Tiki.
Alan will address that, we take some steps,
Mhm.
and that will be addressed during the PowerPoint presentation.
Okay, thank
Thank
you,
you.
Attorney Thomas. All right, seeing that there aren't any specific questions for Mr. Yanis, Attorney Thomas, what's next?
Turn it over to Alan Shepard.
Okay,
Hello, everyone. It's Alan Shepard, professional engineer with the firm Noel Kosky of Eatontown, Kane, 415 Howe Avenue. Can you hear me?
yeah, just keep it up to your mouth.
Okay. As most of you know me, or at least some of you know me, as an engineer that's been doing work downhill for the past 35 years. I also wanted to go over a couple of my background, because it does relate with this. I'm a professional engineer licensed in the state of Connecticut. I went to University of Connecticut, which my technical sequence was environmental engineering. After I got out of college, I worked for 5 years with a major insurance company, doing contamination control and risk mitigation for places like the terminals, oil terminals in New Haven. Naugatuck Chemical, some of you remember that operation up there, went through the plant with their hazardous materials, helped list them and have plans. P&Z Corporation, Oiling Corporation, even chromium process down here in Shelton, one of the ones that I had to go through. So I have some experience with that, handling materials and background that I just want to put on here. Now,
Shepard, I think you're fading out a bit. So
okay, a
there
little
you
bit.
go. That's
closer.
good, yeah.
So, I just wanted to put that into the record. And, when we get to that part, I'll go into what we have for the drainage yard. One of the questions that I want to go into is the cut-through traffic. I'll start with that. Tony Benico, the planner, asked us to go a little bit more 90 with the Huntington Street exit and entrance, which we did. I turned that a little bit more so you're facing into the building. That slows down the traffic to go through there. We have a stop sign there. We have a speed bump right after the stop sign. Come down alongside the building as you go out with gas. There's a speed bump. As you go down towards the gas pumps, we have another stop sign and another made that more 90, so you're facing the building coming down and through, which is one of the comments. So you have to come to a stop. Then you turn the corner, there's a speed bump. Coming down through, we have another speed bump and a stop sign. So, you know, it really discourages the way we have the layout, discourages that kind of easy cut through. And someone do it maybe, but it's not gonna be easy, and when things are not easy, people tend not to do that. So, those are the precautions that we put into that. I want to get into the drainage and the, area that we have here. What the map shows you right now is, part of the drainage area, there's a larger drainage area, but it's part of the area that's not going through drought wall. It's a large commercial area. We have, Route 8 corridor going up through there with, multiple lane highway. So it's, my point there is that we're just one small property in a larger watershed. And this is, what we're showing you right now is part of the drainage, state drainage system. That the old, the Bridgeport Avenue and the Route 8 drains into. So there's a large drainage system that drains off of our property that we have no control of. But what we do have control of is what's on our property. So, I wanted to go through here and just a little bit more detail. Now, this plan is just a conceptual plan, but I want to go into more detail for the drainage because it was a concern. And I'll talk to the board, but I also want the neighbors to grasp what I'm saying. We have, the town of Shelton requires that you have 2 inches of rainfall storage on the property.
Microphone.
Sorry, 2 inches of rainfall is stored on the property. And that's quite a bit. And I'll probably run through how we do that here. I do want to note that the pumps will be covered. And that's part of the, having covered pump systems is part of the, positive limited barriers that are put in for a gas station. Because if you have a spill where the pumps are, it's not going to drain off if you have cover during rain times. And also, a lot of people have noticed that around the gas stations, they have grooves around the pump pad now. Those grooves are there to catch 5 gallons for every pump. So in a situation like ours, we would have the grooves that could catch 50 gallons. That's, you know, more than 2 gas tanks. Right underneath the canopy. It's not subject to rainfall. So that's our first line of defense. The drainage system that we propose is also another line of defense for a couple of different reasons. It gives you water quality. The state asks for 1 inch of rainfall. Shelton requires 2. So it's twice as much for commercial properties. Residential, they hold with the 1. But for commercial properties, they're twice what the state recommends. How we're going to achieve that is, if you look at the plan, I have it broken down, the provided storage. In the rear, we have 1,500 cubic feet of surface storage. There you go. So that is on the grass area. I don't call it rain garden because they're not really rain gardens. What I have is leak offs from the pavement, from the back parking lot area that goes into that grass area that will store some water. We'll mow it. That'll be just a depressed area.
Mr. Trevor, what's in the back area again? Sort of garble.
In the back. See where the cluster of trees are, see where the galleries are in the back?
Oh, galleries, yeah.
See where the galleries, on top of the galleries, we store water right in there. There. So, and I have leak offs on the back parking lot that, it'll leak off into the surface first. And I also have catch basins, in the back car pond, because in the wintertime, you know, they won't work as well, the leaf blocks won't work as well. But the catch basins will still catch the water. So that was pretty well thought out. And, you know, I've done this, you know, obviously I've done drainage systems for a long time. So, that will be surface storage here. Underneath it, we'll have 2,700 cubic feet of storage for gallery system. That's a recharge gallery system. It recharges into the ground. And that, will be connected to a pipe system, a 36-inch pipe system that goes to the front gallery system. The pipe system will store another 1,200 cubic feet. The front 4x4 galleries will store 3,300 cubic feet. And then I have, along the front, a 24-inch pipe storage system that the pump stations will drain into, and I'll go into that a little bit more. And we have hooded trap catch basins. So all our catch basins will be 4-foot sumps, twice as deep as normal. They will have hooded traps on them to catch floatables, and also in sediment. The total amount of storage on the property, in gallons, is 74,000 gallons, a little bit more of that, but 74,000 gallons, which is quite a bit. You could open up a couple of tanker trucks and not a drop of fluid would leave the property with the drainage system that we have. So I just want to put that in perspective, that 74,000 gallons is a lot of storage to keep on site. What we also put in is that front storage system, the pipe storage system, and I went over this with the applicant, is to have an emergency shut-off valve on that. I piped it in a way that you can store half of that front pipe system traffic. And the front piping system is about 4,900 gallons. That will allow you to store over 2,000 gallons with emergency shut-off valve. And that will be in the maintenance plan under management of the facility. So that's quite a bit above what you see normally that's trapped in a hole from the property. The other thing that I wanted to point out is the town engineer recommended a oil separator before it leaves the property, and I reviewed that with the applicant, and he's agreeing to put a 1,000-gallon oil separator in before it goes into Bridgeport Avenue as an extra safety. So as gas stations go, we have a lot of features in here, a lot of drainage that is above and beyond, I think, what you normally see. And I feel quite confident that it's a pretty safe gas station location, and with the drainage that we're putting. So, the rest of the comments from the engineer, we did put, we obviously provide the calculations. He asked for some elevations on the drainage and everything, which we put on pipe storage plan. Hopefully, you know, that addresses everything.
I think Commissioner Kelly has a question.
Yeah, if you had a spill, I had a,
Oh, go ahead. No, put your mic on.
if you had a spill and it went into the tanks, would those tanks be pumped out?
Yes. If a reported spill, they have to be pumped out. So
nothing would go into.
nothing would go in. And literally, I've been involved with spills before. the state gets involved, the government gets involved, and, you know, if it's up to 2,000 gallons, we'll be able to just pump it. If it was more than 2,000 gallons, you know, they would actually come in and rip out the galleries and drainage and everything and replace them. They take over the property. It doesn't happen very often, but I was involved with one, tanker truck spilled on property. And, it's amazing the cleanup that they do. They just take it right out. And they control, they actually own the property and do whatever they need to do.
Thank you.
How quickly can they respond to something like that?
They responded right away. This case that I was involved in, it was up in Newtown, they said, they hired me on the spot, they said, we heard you're a local engineer that could do what we need to do, you're hired, get up to this address. And literally, we had to deal through and everything, doing the survey work, the engineering work to support them. And, it was immediate, I was very impressed. Matter of fact, talking to the geologists and stuff like that on the site, there was one guy that was at a picnic in Pittsburgh, and, outside of Pittsburgh, and he got the phone call, and they just go. They hop on the plane and go. So,
But how about the equipment, the actual equipment?
the equipment, where they were digging things up the same day. Literally, after they had to clean up and stabilize, the sooner they control it, the better. And that was a tanker truck.
And that company that does the pickup is totally separate from, gas station provider?
Yes, the gas station's out of it. The government takes over, and they hire subs, and literally what they said is, give us your hours, you will get paid.
So this is like ski?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's quite, there's no reason why we should have a tanker spill on our property here. This was going around the back corner, and the guy lost control. But being through that, is quite impressive, and, you know, so we do have higher levels, whether it happens on Route 8, Bridgewater Avenue, and stuff like that, even for something of that magnitude.
Were you gonna address any of these,
Yeah,
oil spill part?
Right, the spills, we go down through and we reviewed it with Dominic, the types and the quantities of spills. Like I was saying to Dominic, for what we have here, and I can't stress it strong enough, you could take two tanker trucks and just unload it on our parking lot, and nothing would go off the property. So if we're talking 20 gallons, 30 gallons, 10, you know, most of the small amounts, even if someone drives off with a hose, that hose breaks off and shuts down. So, you know, you may get what's in the hose, but even the length that's in the hose is trapped because it's shut down on both sides. So, the small amount of spills, our first line of defense, those bridges, could handle, I think, all those spills. And then we have everything else on top of that.
Yeah, I would, ask the commission to make sure that they open up that document. It's, quite extensive. It's documentation from, in the Shelton area, from 1997 to 2019. So there was about, for some reason, there was no spills recorded in 1998, 1999. So there were 20 separate years of, data. And there were, according to my calculations, 50 total incidents, but only 39 gas station incidents. About 2 a year, but the majority of them were overfilled, and those 25 or 39 were overfilled. So that, is that considered to be something that can easily be contained?
Yeah, and if you think about that, those overspills are not a great amount of fluid. So in our ridge system, that first line of defense, we're gonna have, you can store 50 gallons in that ridge system in the concrete. So you would have to twice overfill a tank.
What's the blowback?
What's that?
Blowback? That's what they indicated on one of the reasons.
I think that's, it's overspilling somewhere else.
When somebody puts that automatic lock fails, so you stick
Nozzle?
the nozzle to the open, and it doesn't turn off and it blows back out of the tank.
Okay, got
Which
it.
would be small in amounts. And then I think there was one, on a waterway, which doesn't really count to what we're talking about.
The one that Attorney Thomas referenced that happened at the marina was one that really, stuck out to me. It was July 4th, 2010, clearly indicates on the report, at the Beacon Point Marina. And the type of water body that would have been affected is the Housatonic River, and you know that the marina is right there on the river. So, while I would of course be concerned about any kind of overfill and anything, this is one that just didn't occur to me that it would be part of the data, so I thought that was pretty serious.
Gasoline was
But that goes to show you how much this, I don't think people realize how much, the state's on top of it, and how you have to report all the spills, and, you know, this is like a long list of data here that, they're really, you know, was reported, cleaned up, taken care of, signed off on. You know, we're really on top of those things, so,
Yeah, there were 10 different locations that are documented in Shelton. Bridgeport Avenue, 2 on Howe Avenue, 1 on Huntington Street, Leavenworth, Mohegan, 3 on River Road, and another one on Shelton Avenue.
and all of our catch basins can handle 350 gallons, so it's more than what we're saying, catch basins.
Any commissioners in the auditorium have any questions
Yeah,
of Mr. Shepherd?
just one more.
Commissioner Kelly?
This on? Yeah. Where are the gasoline, tanks gonna be located?
If you're facing the building on the left-hand side, if you take a look at this, right in that area, right in there.
Oh.
Right there.
No, you have the drainage over there too, in case of a spill, or?
Yes, that will all drain to the catch basin. I got everything pitched to the catch basins with the traps. Right, they're underground tanks, yes.
Right, so if you had a spill, it would be.
Yeah, contained on the property. And the unique thing about this drainage system, it's all connected. If you take a look right from the back to the front, I got it all connected with the elevations. It's pretty planned out. So this whole drainage system works in unison.
All right, just one more question. If you had a tanker and something happened and they had a big spill, you said it goes down to the drainage system. Is there any valves there that shuts off to maintain it?
In the front of the parking lot.
Yeah, but I know that, but that's just where you're.
Any tanker's gonna be in the front. So that would have, that drainage system in the front has an emergency valve that we can isolate that and shut that off. So we can trap about 2,000 gallons, a little bit over 2,000 in the front. The rest of it, to answer your question, say for somehow a tanker truck meanders out in the back.
Right.
That, the drainage system can hold, a whole tanker system, if it overspills in an emergency. And what they would do, if that ever happened, is they would come in and start digging out the galleries, you know. But if you have a small leak there, or, you know, just the normal wear and tear, this thing is, you know, other than when you're pumping gas, it's just like a regular parking lot, right? And the way I have it designed, the back there is gonna go into that surface, where we're gonna have, 1,500 cubic feet of storage right on the surface on the grass. So if there's a leak, we'll know right away. And we can control that right away. And each facility has a management plan, with the management on what to do. Sure, it's a constant education, you get to change over and help, but I'm sure the gas stations have people they send out right away.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Shepherd, what's the mechanism to shut down or to,
It would be a gate valve. In other words, a turn valve.
which is above ground?
It's a valve below ground,
Okay,
but the handle, they have it inside
yeah.
and have to take it shut down.
Similar to what the water company comes out
Yeah.
and they shut their,
Same thing, it's just that,
Yeah.
It's a manual operation.
manual operation.
what about the year, if it's snowy and everything? I mean, is that something that, like, the firemen always have the hydrants exposed? Is that something that's part of the management plan, that
Yes.
area would have to always be maintained
Exactly.
so that there's,
That's exactly it, and we will have that open,
Mhm.
it will be part of the management plan.
Any commissioners participating remotely have any questions for Mr. Shepherd? Mr. Pianico, do you have any questions for Mr. Shepherd?
No, I believe I understand what the system is how it operates. Hopefully it works.
Okay, thank you. All right, Attorney Thomas, you got, that for Mr. Shepherd?
Yeah, just to summarize and point out a couple other things, we did elongate the sidewalk, which now goes all the way to the,
Could you point that out on one of the drawings, please?
the sidewalk now goes all the way back so that we will be able to put a crosswalk here. So you'll be able to walk all the way back and then cross over to the store. Okay, so we put that suggestion in, and, Alan Shepard reviewed the things that we did in the back with respect to, addressing the traffic and the cut-through issues. There is one thing, I'd like to summarize and mentioning, again, having going gas station, having done gas stations before on zoning, I would like to point out that obviously, if you go through all the studies, tanker truck accidents are within a gas station confines are very rare. And one of the reasons is they're going awfully slow. However, if you look at the slide that I actually did, with respect to, these are all, you can't see it that well here, but there are 9 catch basins along Route 8 and Bridgeport Avenue, that drain into Beaver Dam Lake. And I have explanations as to how we're protecting it. But I will tell you that in the other 2 gas station areas that I did where these issues were raised, almost all tanker truck accidents where there is an enormous spill occur on highways. And we can't mention it. When a tanker truck is in there, it is, unless it explodes, it is usually a situation where something went wrong with the tanker delivery and there are protections. Remember, those tanker trucks do not hold one single thing, they hold several in different compartments. So that is a further protection for what happens when they go through it. So with that, that concludes our presentation. We've addressed all the questions. There are some people on the sign-up sheet if you want to bring it up.
Just before we go on, I was just gonna ask you about this. So when this section of Route 8 was put in, even with the proximity to Beaver Dam Lake, the state didn't do anything to go above and beyond protecting the watershed?
Alan may be able to explain you better. But the catch basins are not our hooded catch basins with the sumps and everything like that.
So what you're proposing is above and beyond.
Way above. However, there are, what do they call that, ponds, there are detention ponds, I think 3 of them, that are located to the inflow of Beaver Dam Lake. One of them, I have been told, and now I'm getting into hearsay, because I'm familiar with someone who lives there. One of them, the main one, which takes, the main one, which is located, I was told, somewhere in this area. In other words, this is where the drainage comes in from, I can't think of the name of the brook, but, Bob Cinto's, development, on, 899. That area there, it comes in, that's the main area, and it comes in at Pumpkin Brook or something like that, I think maybe it is, I'm not sure. But anyway, it comes in there. I was told that was supposed to be maintained by either DOT or DEP, and it isn't, but it's like one of those big swales. So there is a protection, it does have vegetation. I can't comment on it, we couldn't go in there, it's obviously private property. So I'm not sure of the circumstances. So that's what was put in to protect Beaver Dam Lake by the state. But there's nothing, you're not talking about a highway where they put in sumps or other valleys or anything like that. So that concludes our presentation and response.
Okay, Commissioner Kelly has another question.
I have
Can I have the,
another question.
sign up in the meantime? Go ahead, Commissioner Kelly.
Thank you. I want to go back to the flow traffic. The last page of your presentation, you show the swing of the tanker coming in and out. Will that be the same flow for the traffic coming in and out on Bridgeport Avenue? In other words, to come in and out, say the out part, you wouldn't be able to take a left-hand turn to go down Bridgeport Avenue. In other words, you would be crossing traffic to come turn.
I think both of them, I believe, are multi-access. Remember, this is the city portion of it. So both of them, I think, are, right turn, multi-turn in, multi-turn out. Craig is still on the phone, so I think he can maybe answer your question. In other words, you can go in and out either way.
And that's also typical of Huntington Road?
Yeah, so this is Craig Annis at Ty and Bond. So all three driveways are full access in and full access out. So you can make left and right turns in and left and right turns out of the driveway, each one.
Yeah, but, you're so close to the intersection. I just feel that, that's kind of a bottleneck there, no?
It's not that close to the intersection. It's not
Yeah, these are spaced, the driveways are spaced apart per the regulations, and the intersection is located.
Right. I'm talking about where the traffic light is.
Yep, that's right. So the traffic light's located, further to like the southwest or south, if you want to say that way. So they're spaced pretty far, and it's important to have the two driveways in order to allow the tanker operation and also give people options to exit the site.
All right, so you're saying that,
The Bridgeport line of sight thing, she is in the plan, and I put it up on the thing. So you can see the Bridgeport line of sight through the intersection. I don't know, maybe Alan can read the number quickly to all the way to the intersection. Or I could blow it up.
so there's no chance of a pile up at that point where,
No.
traffic would be stopped and.
You actually have two properties.
You
You
know,
have the corner property and the office property before you reach Rangaine.
okay.
So in other words, you're talking about the driveway here, the intersection is there.
That seems close, but it isn't.
600 feet. 200 yards,
All right, so basically that's 60 cars.
or basically from the T to the green is number one.
Okay.
All right, anybody else have any,
Thank you.
questions before we go into the public?
This is Commissioner Ticky. I just had a question if the applicant knew what might be the business hours of the gas station and convenience store.
We only have that, we're still in negotiations with specific tenants. I have really, haven't heard anything with respect to hours. That's certainly something that when we do the final site development plan, we would be presenting if we, had a tenant, because all that information is required on the statement of use at that time. But I honestly don't know the answer.
Okay, thank you, Attorney Thomas.
Thank you.
Madam Chairman?
Okay, well, go ahead, Mr. Panico.
Yes, the one thing I did not, I think the speed bumps are well located, but I have not seen a design of those speed bumps in terms of what a cross section would look like. I would strongly suggest that the speed bumps be aligned so that the sidewalk flow can continue across the driveway, and that the top of the speed berm be made at least the width of the sidewalk. Do you understand me?
That is the intent, is to do the wide speed bumps with the crossing over the speed bump, the ability to cross over the top of the speed bump, so it would be the approximate width of a sidewalk, and then on either side it would go down. That's also,
Yes.
Better for plowing.
And that it somehow or other have a textural change of some sort so that a motorist realizes it's a sidewalk he's crossing when he crosses that speed bump. The sidewalk at the front of the two buildings is or rather the speed bump is kind of misaligned, and I think it needs to be aligned so as to connect the sidewalk on either side there.
We will certainly take that into account, absolutely.
So my understanding is that the front two tires are going over, it goes over for a bit, and then it goes off. It's not a quick boom.
Yeah, it's a speed
Up
table.
like that, and then it
Speed
goes
table.
up.
Okay. Okay, anybody else?
These are issues that can be worked out on detailed development plans if we get beyond this stage.
Okay, that's true.
And the only other thing,
Thank you.
I did have some architectural concerns, but they're not major enough that they can't be ironed out as we go through detailed development plans.
All right, thank you. All right, unless there's been any other questions, comments, or concerns, we'll, ask the members of the audience who signed up to come forward. First is Mike Pavia, and those, who are addressing the commission, when you step up to the microphone, please, identify yourself and your address. Please keep the microphone close to your mouth if all possible.
You know, I'm gonna refer to it, but I'm not smart enough.
No, I
I'm
will
gonna
do
have to
it.
show you. Okay, I will do it. Probably what you do. Yeah, you'll be putting down here. Okay, good morning, Commissioners.
Get close to the mic, or we have a wireless.
No, this is
Is
good.
this the mic that's
Yeah.
working properly? Okay, we gotta hold it close.
So again, good morning and thank you. And,
Gotta get the microphone.
what I'd like to start off is I'd like to clarify.
There.
A few points? Okay, that's better. One of the things is a challenge for us is the applicant's documentation on the website. And I was hoping that someone in maybe the planning and zoning office can send us a link so that we can stay on top of the documents that go into your database, Alex. If that's something you can do for us, we greatly appreciate that.
Can you clarify your question? Maybe everything is on the website that we've received.
You know, I don't have a link. If somebody could send me a link to the website. I go to the website, I see the minutes, and it tells me 84 downloads.
If
All right,
you click
yeah,
on the planning and zoning webpage, the link, in the middle of the planning and zoning section, it says meeting materials.
Okay, I'll try that again.
Yeah, on the home page, you'll see several words. One is department. That, if you hover over that, it opens all the departments in City Hall, and there's like 4 columns of them. Planning and zoning is in there, and that's how you get to the planning and zoning page.
Okay. So I think today I want to start with, the meeting minutes from the 6/24 meeting. Kind of go backwards and address some of the things that were said at that point, because I believe the commissioners at the time, hear something and then they go on and they think that's the reality. Mr. Thomas brought it up. Let's take the 9 catch basins that he refers to. Just so the commissioners and planning and zoning has a complete understanding of those, we are very familiar with those catch basins. We've been responsible for their cleaning and maintenance for 50 years, since they were installed for Route 8 back in 1970. About 12 to 15 years ago, the state of Connecticut stopped using sand on their highways and state roads. And they told us, we're gonna do one last cleaning. It was 50 years ago. They now use salt on the roads. So I can advise you, you should be aware that those basins haven't been maintained in 15 years. They're full to the top. I would argue, they're all on Shelton property, well, with some yourself, that most of them that filled in with dirt and provide no catch. And so, in addition to being 50 years old, antiquated, they don't address taking petrochemicals that would float down Bridgeport Avenue. There's no skimmer system in those. So, I think the applicants should come up with a better system and, as far as catch basins are concerned. The other thing that just came up to me this morning when watching the presentation was, it seems to me that the property slopes in a northwesterly direction towards Huntington Street. And it seems like they're going to great extent to take all the water on the property and flow it off of Bridgeport Avenue. Doesn't inland wetlands have anything to say about that? I mean, that just seems like incongruous to me that they would take the water 350 feet on Huntington Street and somehow flow it off to Bridgeport Avenue. So I just want to make that point. That came obvious to me today, and I will talk to our engineer about that point.
Mr. Bailey, I just want to make sure I understand, you're saying that the way that the drawings represent the drainage is heading towards Huntington Street?
The property lays today angled towards Huntington Street. There's a grade towards Huntington Street.
Right.
It sounds like the water's flowing towards Huntington Street, stormwater, but then they're catching it and sending it 300 feet back south to Bridgeport Avenue. So,
All right,
somebody's got to tell me why that, why
I'm sure
would
that will be addressed.
here on Huntington Street. So it's not conjecture on our part, it's fact that those 9 catch basins provide no buffer, no source of protection to our lake. The other thing on the 624 notes, we appreciate that Shelton requires 2 inches of, extra storage, and the state requires 1, and Shelton requires 2. On Friday of last week, it rained 2.15 inches in Shelton. So while we're discussing this, water would have routed. So it's great, and I'll tell you what the association does. We prepare for millennial events, 24 inches in a 24-hour period. I heard nothing discussed about preparation for a storm event of that nature. A couple of other things from those notes. This idea of a sidewalk. We want swales and berms on Bridgeport Avenue, and not sidewalks funneling more water to Bridgeport Avenue. There's no sidewalk on the Huntington LLC buildings. There's no sidewalk on the Marriott. So it seems incongruous to me that they would put a sidewalk on Bridgeport Avenue. The cut through, again, I'm here to oppose the gas station, but some of the things, eliminate the cut through. Don't have ins and outs on both streets. Take them in from Huntington Street, let them out on Huntington Street, burn Bridgeport Avenue, and save us, and so I say that because, and I have some submissions to the commission today, but I didn't make the 24-hour period. So I will submit them at a later time. I'm hoping that the commission will, in some way, move this hearing again. So those are the comments to the 624 meeting minutes. I now want to address what I feel as though the commission should be reviewing in this. The watershed that we're trying to protect at Beaver Dam Lake starts at Lane Yankees and goes all the way past the Cinto building. And you will see that Sylvan Brook, what Shelton has done over the last 35 years is densely develop along the banks of Sylvan Brook. Literally, where it leaves the hydraulic aquarium property and goes under Huntington Avenue, you have two giant buildings by Avalon. You have homesteads. You have Suma Graphics. You have the animal hospital. You now have the Cinto building. So our engineer is looking at that. We've asked him to make a calculation of how much land protects our lake and how much has now been rooftop and blacktop. So I guess what I'm trying to do is create a vision for you guys that what has happened to our watershed, and now you want to exacerbate it by further uphill introducing petrochemicals into our system. We've given you the letters from the Audubon Society. We have endangered species that, also our engineer, I don't think it counts today, but he sent us some state DEP natural diversity database, and I guess there's some particular species in the northeastern section of our lake that are impacted, as well as once it gets on the other side of Beaver Dam Lake, it proceeds through Roosevelt Forest, Cook's Pond, and eventually ends up in the Housatonic River. So we are enlisting the Roosevelt Forest Commission to help us in this. They have a whole biodiversity in that wetland. We're going to work with our Conservation Commission. Can someone answer me that question? Why show inland wetland is not involved in this? Is it because the water passes the Stratford so quickly? You think someone answer that?
We will.
You'll answer it. Figure out why. Thank you. Appreciate that. So some of the things that I didn't get a chance to submit, but will submit at a later date is, we've hired counsel. We have petitions now that we're circulating. I have 4 pages of petitions to submit, but I guess they don't count for today. I also want to submit an 80-year history of Beaver Dam Lake that goes back to 1940s and shows that we're not just Johnny-come-lately protecting our lake. We've always had a vested interest, not only for our property values, but also for the natural species that live along our lake. We also have GEI as a consultant. We asked them to look, we thought maybe there's new catch basins that we're not aware of. But they couldn't even find the 9 catch basins Mr. Thomas found. That's a submittal that I'll provide to you guys. I think you guys got Bill Pagano's submittal about the 51 gas station spill. So that's pretty much empirical evidence that says if you have a gas station, you will have a spill. And again, so just let me go back. So I'm saying that in this context of what's happened in that watershed, and then you have this, you created a raceway to our lake of water. And it's just I think everybody says, oh yeah, if there's a spill, we can get to it quick, or we're going to be able to contain 5 gallons in our ridges. If it's 6 gallons, then we're all too late. So, back to the empirical data. What I'm gonna provide is, with my new submission, just to be sure you have all our documents. I'm gonna give you an inventory listing of what we previously said. The 3 letters from our engineer, the Audubon letter, the letters on the gas station spills. And then I'm not sure whatever happened, but a month ago when I left the previous meeting, being so familiar with the catch basins and the routing of that water to our lake, I sent Bernie a series of pictures, Bernie Simons, who's part of to show what disrepair that stream bed is into our lake and how the grates that protect pipes that go under Route 8 have been destroyed. So, you know, it's almost a call to arms for us at the association to, you know, for many years, we've watched this development and we've worked with the Shelton engineers, and we didn't want to be viewed as, you know, tree huggers. And so we thought on some of these developments, and if some of the best practices could be employed, that we wouldn't stand in the way of things. But, you know, this gas station goes beyond the pale of what we can accept. And just, you know, so that's our position on this. I also plan on getting expert testimony and data from insurance companies. We've looked into that. That's gonna become an issue for us. The property values, I guess that, you know, that's gonna take a hit. Water quality over time cannot possibly be maintained with such a system up there. And so just in closing, because I don't want to bore you guys to tears, but I'm very passionate about this subject. I know it very, very well. I can tell you that the dense development along Sylvan Brook has exacerbated tenfold why you may be dispatching us cleaner water than you did 30 years ago. It's the volume of water. The pictures I sent to Bernie and Tim show the roots uprooted, 100-foot trees knocked down because the volume of water you guys are directing to our lake is just untenable. We've had to build a forebay at the end of Sylvan Brook because the water rushes so fast. You now have a siltation plume that's 300 feet to the lake. So we actually had to develop a wall to somehow, and we clean it every 2 years. So I'm saying that you just have to take all this in context. We have nothing against Lane Yankees. We buy our flowers from Lane Yankees. It's just the whole gas station concept that, you know, just doesn't seem to ring true and seems out of place. I think a couple of others, I've taken enough of your time, a couple other members want to speak. But if I think of something else when I'm sitting down there, does this forum allow me to raise my hand and come run up? Like, you've got to have dialogue with the applicant.
Yes, as long as it's new information that you present.
Okay.
Is that it, Mr. Pena?
I thank you for your time, yes.
Okay. All right, next person is Christian Dasher.
Good morning, my name is Christian Dasher. My partner, Dr. William Mabry, and I reside at 3402 Huntington Road in Stratford. It's right on the Trumbull and Shelton border. Even though I am a Stratford resident, I do utilize the grocery stores, businesses, shops on Bridgeport Avenue. Mr. Fabia pointed out a lot of wonderful points that I had planned on talking about, but won't. I do have one concern. We've submitted emails to a.castro@cityofshelton.org. We did not hear a name read at the first meeting we attended. We've sent emails asking for confirmation that our emails are received and have not ever received a reply. So I just wanted.
I can look into that, but most likely your notices have been posted online.
Okay, I didn't see them there.
What was your name again? Christian Dasher?
And William Avery.
And William Avery, that's the email names?
Yes. So, we did a lot of research, as did Mr. Pavia, on how this would affect our lake. We got a lot of information from the City of Shelton's own stormwater management plan of 2017. Their goal is to raise a public awareness that polluted stormwater water runoff is the most significant source of water quality problems. They wrote this to minimize the amount of impervious surfaces, roads, parking lots, roofs, etc., by minimizing the creation, extension, and widening of parking lots and associated development. They also want to preserve, protect, create, and restore ecologically sensitive areas that provide water quality benefits and serve critical watershed functions. I implore you to read that 27-page document that the City of Shelton put in place in 2017. As Mr. Pavia pointed out, these 9 catch basins, as well as the filtration ponds, only at this point were designed to filter sediment, phosphorus, nitrogen, and metals. The only way to remove fuel, oil, grease, or petroleum is with skimmers. None of these 9 catch basins, nor do these filtration or retention ponds currently, or did they ever have skimmers in place. That's also documented by Connecticut Deep and the Connecticut Fund for the Environment, Roger Reynolds Association. I know that they have put this elaborate plan in place to contain spills. One of our things that we found during our research, this occurred August 6th in 2019 in Ridgefield, Connecticut, at a Valero gas station at 3 a.m. while the tanks were being fueled. They leaked 71 gallons of fuel. It was not reported by the driver. It was not reported by Valero. At 7:30 a.m., a neighboring business smelled the fuel, called the fire department, and they were called in to contain the spill, which almost made it into what's known as Little Pond, which drains into the Norwalk River watershed. That would have been disastrous to the pond and harmful to the subsequent watersheds. In that email that we have submitted, we also included photos of fuel that's already on the surface of Beaver Dam Lake from the stormwater drains already there, which enforces my research that there are no skimmers on these ponds or filtration systems. So whatever runoff comes from this gas station will end up in Beaver Dam Lake, which subsequently flows into Cook's Pond, Cemetery Brook, Cranberry Brook, Peck's Mill Pond, the Housatonic River, and Long Island Sound. I'd also like to point out that what's been pointed out before by other people who have spoken, this gas station provides no essential service that is not already available in this area. There's a gas station less than 3/4 of a mile. I read an article written by the editor of the Shelton Herald, Brian Jewell, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, and I posted that onto a Shelton social media page. I got a lot of responses. A lot of people expressed concerns about having a gas station at the entrance to one of the most beautiful neighborhoods in Shelton, Huntington, how it would be an eyesore. A lot of them expressed concerns about the cut-through, whether you have speed bumps or not, it's going to happen. There are going to be increased accidents with people making left-hand turns onto Bridgeport Avenue. And a lot of people had pointed out that it's a prime target for robberies being within such close proximity to the entrance of Route 8. I don't know if that's a problem in Shelton currently, but a lot of people seem to be very concerned about that. And to touch on what Mr. Fahey said about the endangered species on our lake, we are very passionate about those, and we do our best to protect their welfare and their habitats and source of food. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dasher.
One more thing I'd like to add. I've attended 2 of these other hearings, and I've listened to the commission ask very scrutinized certain other applicants, such as signage, whether it be, do the letters have to be that big? How long will this be illuminated? How bright is that light? I just urge you to consider our concerns with the same scrutiny. Thank you.
Okay. All right, thank you. And, Mr. Pavia, do you have a quick comment?
Yeah, real quick comment. You know, I with respect to the essential service that would be provided by the gas station, I did a Google search this morning, and within 5 miles, 5-mile radius, there are 16 gas stations, 9 of which are in Shelton. If I constrict that search down to 2.5 miles, there are 6 gas stations within 2.5 miles. So I think that point, of essential services, there, you know, we're well served with gasoline fill stations. And I see no need for another one, as Christian pointed out, at the entrance to Huntington. And the other thing is, we have some Shelton residents that pay taxes to Shelton from Beaver Dam Access Road, all of which are on a well water system. So while stormwater is certainly an immediate concern for everyone, groundwater is a longer-term concern for the Shelton residents that reside on Beaver Dam Access Road. So Dr. J. Esposito specifically asked me to mention his name as a taxpayer and his well water system. So I want to make sure that that's written into the record. And again, we're going to continue to work with the DEP, the Conservation Committee in Stratford, the Roosevelt Forest Commission. The citizens group of Stratford is getting petitions ready for us. And I'll just leave it at that. Just doesn't, when you add up all these different things, it doesn't meet the smell test to me. I hope the commission considers it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bailey. Attorney Thomas, do you have any comments at this time?
Yes. This is our third public hearing. And I wanted you to know that on June 26th, I sent a lot of the stuff that Alan Shepard had done to S. Pastor, who identified himself as the head of the association, in order to avoid exactly what's happened, which is presenting stuff now. First of all, I do want to make one response. I have no idea where anybody thinks that we are responsible for the Route 8 catch basin, or the Pitchford Avenue catch basin. The point is that we are containing it on our site. You can go and you can create horror situations. And then basically the position is you should never have a gas station anywhere. And we have enough of them now. That's the position. If we have enough of them now, then this won't be built because there won't be the economics of it. 50 years from now, if everybody's driving electric cars, the gas stations will be replaced by pumps. I don't know. But the fact of the matter is that their major complaint seems to be the development along Pitchford Avenue. They also seem to have a major complaint with Route 8. It's not our responsibility. But you heard an expert explain what is happening on our site. And that is what's happening. That is how spills are contained. When you look at the statistics, they are mostly small spills. There are rules, regulations, requirements. Do you know that when there's a spill in a gas station, you are not allowed to use water to wash it away? You must use dry material to soak it up, and you must sweep it up. Those are the requirements. Those are the requirements why the grooves are put. As to why there is no, where is the Wetlands Commission? On the third floor, the staff is in the same building there. That's where it exists. Why did we not have to go before them? Because there is no regulated activity. Drainage is the prerogative of the Planning and Zoning Commission. In this situation, every bit of drainage off of every development eventually makes its way into a wetland, but there is no, especially in this situation, and under the stormwater maintenance, there is no requirement to go to wetlands because we don't have any regulated activity on the site. I will turn it over to Alan to address the issue of the drainage and why the drainage goes the way it comes. But I do believe, I know they've made a request to keep it open. We've tried to address everything, but this is the third public hearing. We started this in May. And again, I sent out an email to the association president on June 26th with attachments, copied it, agreed to ours, to your staff, saying, here it is, anticipating that they would have responded before, at that point, I anticipated we would be having a hearing now, at the end of July. And now we're being told we're gonna have engineers, we're gonna have petitions, I mean, they can petition, but nothing we're doing, is there any substantial evidence whatsoever to show that nothing we're doing will impact, Beaver Dam Lake or the wildlife around it. If you're concerned about a fuel tank spilling, that is much more likely, 100 times or more likely to occur on Route 8 as it speeds past as it was. With that, I'll call upon Alan to address the issue of drainage.
Hello. I would like to go over, obviously we all know that this property we're talking about is developed with a substantial parking lot with a greenhouse on it and a residential house. So it's not like we're taking, raw land and developing, this is already existing developed property. Having said that, I met with the Inland Wetland Administrator, John Cook, to review the drainage. And this is a zone change. So it's not a site plan approval per se, it's a detailed site plan approval, so that will come later. But even at the zone change level, I wanted to check with John Cook and review the drainage. And it was, some of the property does drain to Huntington Street, some to Bridgeport Avenue. And it was his suggestion that we don't connect to the, Huntington Street side drainage, but provide the galleries in the back. If you notice, I split the galleries, so I have recharge in that area, that will feed the groundwater. And that's part of what was driven for the design. Like Dominic said, we didn't need a permit from wetlands, but I did review that with staff. And I think you have a letter in your file stating that.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, any, comments from any of the commissioners?
A question about the skimmers, what was brought up about the skimmers, I didn't understand that.
Yes, and in regards to the DOT, and that's one of my pet peeves too, we have to do all this drainage and stuff like that, and the state just puts in another lane on a highway with, being with the state is their level, what we do as design engineers, and they can put another line. So I don't even want to defend the state DOT, or talk about that. But I will say for our property, we have the hooded catch basins that has a pipe that returns down in. So hydrocarbons float, or any floating debris will float. So each one of our catch basins will have that. Plus, we also agreed, the town engineer said to be, Al, why don't we put in another oil separator right before it goes out? So I got the storage, I got the recharge, I got the extension, and then we figured with that, and he said, fine, we'll put a oil separator in before it leaves the property. So you wouldn't see skimmers on the property. Matter of fact, we don't really use those. Anything connected or anything.
But you are catching the oil on your site.
We're catching oil on our site, and our oil system's designed to do that. So, and other than commercial, but when we used to work for the insurance company with big wastewater treatment plants and stuff like that, that's something wholly different than for what we have for a gas station, commercial buildings or whatever. So, and whatever they were, issues with the state or issues with the state, I'm confident with our layout.
So, if the commission is fine, situation, if it's inclined. We believe the commission has enough evidence before you. There are substantial complaints that the Beaver Dam Lake Association has, the state of Connecticut and the city of Shelby. You know, like the development, extended development on Bridgeport Avenue. They expressed their concerns about our development not being an essential service. If we put an office building there, you know, there's no market for it right now, that wouldn't be an essential service. You'd have a bunch of parking. You'd have it parking. So the point is they've expressed everything. They've had more than enough opportunity to technically address the issue. They've submitted technical data which basically prove that we can take care of everything on our site. We are not having an increased flowage on the site. It's a developed site. So I think that there is the ability to close it off at this point if the commissioners feel it has enough information. However, if the commissioners feel that it wants this other information, given the COVID things that we've been going through, there has to be a situation of, okay, you have to submit it by this, and we have to conclude the public hearing, and I would hopefully shortly, because it'll be approaching, at this point, it's gone beyond 2 months that we've had the public hearing. And, but that's our position.
Thank you, Attorney Thomas. All right, I'll then address the commission. What is everyone's feelings? Do you feel that you have enough information? We should close the public hearing? Or is there anything specific that you feel that is required that we should keep the public hearing open? So those commissioners participating remotely, Commissioners Parkins and Tiki, do you have any comments, questions, or concerns?
I do not in favor of closing the public hearing.
Okay, so you're for leaving it open?
No, for closing it.
Repeat that, Commissioner Parkins?
I have no further questions and would be in favor of closing the public hearing.
Okay, got that. Commissioner Tiki, how about you?
Yeah, I don't think there's any other outstanding information. I think I may have some concerns, but I would be in favor of closing the public hearing.
All right, Commissioner Tellis?
I'm in favor of closing it.
You're in favor of closing, Commissioner Amato?
Just a question, are we getting any other input from, say, the city engineer in terms of,
There was.
you already have, we've already reviewed?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay, so Commissioner Amato, what's your feeling on this? Keep it open or close the public hearing?
I think we should close it.
Okay, all right, I'm in favor of closing it as well. Is there a commissioner who would like to make a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll make a motion to close.
There's a motion from Commissioner Kelly to close. Is there a second?
A second.
There's a second from Commissioner Amato. So a roll call vote on the motion to close the public hearing. Commissioner Parkins?
Aye.
Commissioner Tiki?
Aye.
Commissioner Amato?
Aye.
Commissioner Kelly?
Aye.
And it's your vote side. Okay, a discussion about this particular application will be held at an upcoming commission meeting, and the chair will ask the commission at that time for a consensus on how to proceed. So we'll go on to our next agenda item, public hearing for application 20-12, Good Guys Development, LLC. Guidelines that I read at the beginning of today's meeting continue to be the protocol for the public hearing for 20-12. And if you are leaving for the auditorium, please do so at this time. And Commissioner Amato, would you read the call for the public hearing?
Initiation of application 20-12, Good Guys Development, LLC, at Tecumseh Lane, map 66, lot 24. Land development district on 2.12 acres, generally bounded as follows. Northerly by 7.59 acres vacant land, map 66, lot 3. Easterly by 0.5 versus
Thank you, Commissioner Amato. I'd like to note for the record, there are several documents posted to the city's website for this application, including the statement of uses and standards, a petition for a PDD zone change, site plans and elevations, vicinity and boundary map, an engineering report, and a traffic study. So Attorney Bellis, are you here representing the applicant?
I am. Am I to use this portable mic?
Yeah, I think it would be better.
Is it on?
It's on.
Yes, for the record, I'm Attorney Stephen Bellis, and I represent the applicant, Good Guys LLC. Good Guys owns 0 Petromont Lane, and, Petromont Lane is, I found this photograph of Petromont Lane, back in 1848, Elizabeth Petromont lived here until the 1940s, at least 92 at that time. And, I just thought it was, curious that they actually had a photograph in our Shelton Historic Society of Petromont Lane. It's a small street between Forum and Route 110. So in light of what, Elizabeth Petromont living there, we're gonna call our project, Petromont Place. I have, and I'll hand them to Alex, I have the exhibits, and I'll go through them rather quickly. 1 through 28 are all listed, in my, pamphlet here, and I'll go through them, if I can approach, give them to Alex.
Sure, he's stepped away, but.
I'll put them next to him.
Yep.
I'd like to introduce these. So, let me just state for the record that, Exhibit 1 is the application for a PDD, and an initial concept plan. So we are here, just for the PDD initial concept plan. We would have to come back, we're not combining this one, we would come back for detailed development plan. Exhibit 2 is a notice to 200-foot abutters. Exhibit 3 is a public hearing sign that we posted. Exhibit 4 is a statement of uses. Exhibit 5 is an application and a legal description that I gave to the town clerk. That's required under Connecticut General Statute, Section 8-3. I gave it to her when we applied, so it's on the record. So let's go to Exhibit 6. Exhibit 6 is a boundary map, and this shows the property. It's a 2.12 acre parcel. It's currently zoned R3, and you can see, it sits, it's, on Petromont Lane, and, to the property, to, I don't know the direction, there's a property owned by the Colburns, which is on Coram Road, and then, behind, on the other side of the property is, the Colburn sold that, and now that you approved that project, that now has the Sterling Pool and a lot, car wash place, so that's a commercial. So the next map is a topo map. The topography on this, site is good for building, shouldn't be any problems. It slopes, in some places, but, I think it works. It's not like a mountaintop or anything. The next one I'd like to show you, these are the, go back. That's the property from the aerial view. So you can see our site, and you can see the right in front of it, on one hand, the washing, the, Sterling Pool. On the other side of the street from Petromont is a commercial building and an industrial building. And then, across the street, then you have Quorum. Next one I think is kind of interesting. I know there's a lot of colors here, I'm not sure if you can see, but I'll read it to you. So our site is where Pat has the little arrow. And in this area, there's all kinds of zones. In front of our property, and along Route 110 is a CA2. Across from Petromont is commercial C2. and industrial ID1. On Quorum is R3 with the Colbert House, and behind our property is a CA2. And if you cross Quorum Road, there are 4 PDDs on the so there are quite a few areas. So according to our PDD regulations, section 34.1, PDD may be established along River Road and on property abutting established non-residential area to accommodate a proposed use that will be an effective transition to buffer an adjacent residential neighborhood, read from our regulations. So this piece, I think, is clearly a transitional piece. We have the commercial buildings along 110 that are abutting, and then we have a residential neighborhood along Quorum Road and the Colbert piece. So this is what we would call typical transitional piece. And again, it is along River Road, and there's 4 other PDDs, so you have inactive PDDs in this area before. So I have Exhibit 10 in the big package. Exhibit 10 is what I call 8-3, that's Connecticut General Statute 8-3. When you have a zone change, you have to articulate that it's consistent with the plan of conservation and development. And I've given 3 reasons why it is. The first is the housing diversity. Our plan of conservation development under 4-26 says there should be some housing diversity in town. It also says there should be an alternative to single-family homes for both elderly and single people, and that was in our conservation development 4-31. And lastly, they say, the plan says you should have income diversity. And in this particular proposal, we're proposing a 10% workforce set aside, meaning 10% of the units would be eligible for people that are that qualify for the workforce affordable status. You may all be familiar with this. It's a little less obtrusive than the 8-30G, which is the state affordable housing, and I'm not proposing it under the state statute, so it's clear. This is a voluntary offering, and it's consistent with our plan of development under section 4-33. So, let's go to, I have, Exhibit 11, we don't have it on the slides, it's a photograph. I took a photograph of the Sterling Pool building. I think you guys are pretty familiar with it. I think it was called the Santos, perhaps, project.
Yeah.
And behind the building is a parking lot, and then there's a wall. And that wall's fairly high, and it's about 10 feet or more. And then there's a fence, and then there's our property. So there's a buffer there with trees. So I think that that this piece meets the criteria for a PDD, and I think it's an excellent location for apartments, and I'll explain why. We'll go to the next one. Under Exhibit 12, I give, that's okay, I don't think it matters. Yeah, I can use that as a site plan. So Exhibit 12 in my, it's very similar to this, is the site plan. And Pat had on his slide of the site plan a zoning table, and I wanted you all to know that, there it is, yeah. The zoning table, I know you can't read that, the font's too small, but I can tell you that it meets all the requirements of an R3 zone as far as the setbacks are concerned, front, back, all that. So, what we are proposing, what we had proposed, we came for an informal work session, and the staff had asked us to turn this building from what we had proposed, so that the building could give more open space towards Quorum Road up in that upper corner, and also also put some parking in the back of the building, which would be adjacent to that swimming pool that I was talking about, that you really wouldn't see from Route 110. What we've done is put two entrances from Tetramont Lane, and a lot of that is just good common practice, helps with fire trucks and for safety getting in and out of the room, instead of having just one ingress and egress. It has good access. So we have two entrances. So you can see here on this site plan that we have 112 parking spaces, and we are proposing 56 units, which if you do the math gives you 2 parking spaces per unit. Have you do that landscape plan that you have? There you go. So on this, you can see what we did was we incorporated a green space with grass, trees. At Alex's suggestion, and one that I liked was a bocce court. There it is, Alex. Maybe you're a ringer, beat me at it. But there's picnic tables, grills and whatnot. What we did is left the dark green is the existing trees. It's very thick woods right now. That would stay as a buffer to the Kohlberg piece and a buffer to the for lack of a better word, I'll call it farmer lovers, the owners in the back that is vacant. We also have the light green, which would be the grass areas, and those little bushes and whatnot are trees and bushes. So what we've done is I have exhibits 14 through 16. Those are the soil and erosion, grading, and lights. I'm not going to go through that. Pat or Manny, our engineer, go through that. But I did want to point out that this property has sewers and water right on Tetramont Lane. Okay, you can go architectural drawings. Yeah, okay. You want to go first? Yeah, both know that. Okay, so this building has 4 stories, as I said, with 56 units. There are 19 studio apartments, and then it has 22 one-bedroom units and 15 one-bedrooms with office. That adds up to 56. So I'm showing you the building here that has what we call a different color siding, which we will select and bring to you at our next meeting when we do the detailed development plan. The computer just shows you colors. I don't want you to, they're not the actual colors that we're going to be using. Those are simply showing you that we'll be breaking up the building with different color siding, but we'll review the siding for you to see. Pat will go over, the architect will go over to a bit more detail, but I wanted to point out that in the front, the top portion of the picture is, yeah, that one. That's what you'll be seeing from Tetramont Lane. So you're really seeing the narrow end of the building facing Tetramont Lane. It has a lot of glass in the front, some balconies, but you see it's rather narrow. And then the property would go straight back and really will not be visible from Route 110 because, as I explained, you have the swimming pool building there, and it would be blocked. You may or may not be able to see the side that's down below, which is what I would call a side view, from Quorum Road or driving down Tetramont. And I just wanted to point out that these are all broken up with balconies. Each unit would have a balcony, and the entrance is all stone face. Hard to tell with a computer rendering, but don't forget these are initial concept plans. And I'll have Pat take you through the buildings more. The Exhibit 22 is a storm drainage report. Manny Silva, our engineer, will that, I'm not gonna post that up here. We have a traffic report. Mr. Hewlett is here, our traffic engineer, and he'll briefly discuss the issues, that he found in the traffic report. Exhibit 24, I call the property value report. I brought in both Karen Berwick and Julie Gawley, and she'll briefly explain to you, they will both briefly explain to you about why an apartment would be good in this location, and that it would not have any adverse impacts on the value of other properties. We did speak with Bill Gaffney, the tax assessor, and he estimated with conservative rentals of $1,200 for the studios, $1,600 for the one-bedroom, and $1,750 for the one-bedroom and the office, that the building would have a fair market value of approximately $8.5 million. And he said that would generate, he said he was conservative, I said that was fine, $133,400 in taxes yearly to the city. Again, he thought that the rentals were low, and that made the fair market value a little low, and made the taxes a little low, but that's okay. So let's call it a minimum of $133,400. It could be more. I think since this particular project, an apartment building has a lot of studios and one-bedrooms, and no two-bedrooms at all, that it's very unlikely that there will be school-age children. So there shouldn't be any burden on the town finances as far as the education system is concerned. I put in Exhibit 25, that there's no wetlands on the property. We got a letter from John Cook. There's no regulated activity, so there's no wetlands approval needed. I put in an Exhibit number 26, that we went to the WPCA, and they said there are sewers on Petramont, and that it has the capacity to handle this project if we got 56 years, that they have the capacity to handle that sewage. Exhibit 27 is a fire marshal report. He approved the project as we designed it, provided it had sprinklers, which it will, and he wanted to approve the location of the fire hydrant. As I said, there's water on Petramont, so we can get that. Exhibit 28 was sent to Alex. I didn't get a copy of it, but we sent it to the police, the traffic division of the police, and I was told there's no undue traffic hazards, so that letter will be attached. Submitted it to the engineer's office, our engineer's office, and he said to me that in an email that he does not review these at the initial concept plan stage, that he would review it and submit his letter to the board when we came back for the detailed development plan. So he felt it would be premature to do that at this point. So without further ado, I'm going to try to get my witnesses up here and get you all out of here. I'd like to start with the two realtors. Are they here? Yes. For the record, this is Karen Berwick and Julie Gawley, and they're from Real Estate too. Their letter is Exhibit 24. That's what we're going to discuss. Really.
Yes, so identify yourself.
I am Karen Berwick, and, this is Joe Dolly, and we're from Real Estate Two, and as you know, Real Estate Two, been around since 1985. I've been with that company for 31 years, Joe, 9 years, both are college graduates. Both of us have, an unusual designation called the PRS designation, represents the top 1% of realtors in the United States. In the town of Shelton, I'm proud to say Jody and I are the only two with this designation. I also have a designation with, a CSCS designation, co-chair of the been a lifelong resident of Shelton. So I think that qualifies us fairly well to talk about what we're going to talk about. The Petromont site, we've been by many times, and been over in this town, that's a street that sometimes we travel. Seems to be a perfect, highest and best use spot for apartments. And apartments in the town of Shelton, there's a big demand for them. Anytime we have rental units that pop up, they move very quickly. The fact that these are going to be reasonably priced, one-bedroom studio, one-bedroom units, and one-bedroom with office. Of course, office is big right now with the COVID environment. They should rent up very quickly.
Hi, I'm Jody Dolly. Yes, I believe that you're gonna, one of the positives of this development is that you are within minutes to, the Merritt Parkway. And I believe you're gonna get a lot of, people from East Sikorsky or over the Sikorsky Bridge, that this is gonna be, that are going to be attracted to this. There are units, downtown. I don't think it's competitive, to that at all, because I think some people like the downtown area. They like to walk to shops and restaurants, and other people like to be closer to the highway. People that are coming from Sikorsky or businesses, possibly Milford Way, I think this is going to really attract them. You're going to get professional people. You will not compete with the school system, because as Steve said, I don't believe you're going to have people with children in a one-bedroom or studio. So I really think that this is going to be positive to our town, and I think it'll be great.
We also feel that the fact that there's 2 parking spaces per unit is going to be very attractive to a lot of people. And, and it's tucked away, like Jody said, there's people that like that downtown thing, but there's people that want this, which is like, a little quiet little niche. It's a perfect highest and best use spot for, this land. I think that's about it.
Yes, right in this specific area, there are no apartments. The closest ones are pretty further away and will not compete with this at all. So I think that it will be very attractive to professionals that do work for Sikorsky and some of the businesses that are up and coming in our town and in Milford as well. And having the close access to the highway is really going to be a positive.
I also feel that it's nicely suited for people going out from Stratford train station. Get down to Stratford train station, that'll be attractive for some as well. Okay, thank you. Any questions?
Any of the commissioners have any questions for Karen Berwick or Jody Dolly? Commissioner Amato, go ahead.
Yeah, you mentioned what you think the rent will be.
I believe the rental prices, you mean?
Yeah.
I believe the one bedroom, the studio units will be going for $1,200. The one bedroom with the office will be going for $1,750, and the one bedroom unit, not the studio, will be going for $1,600. Very fair pricing.
I can't express to you enough how fast. I can't express to you enough how fast when we list a rental for sale, it's fine. So there is a pent-up demand.
Thank you.
At this time, I'd like to introduce you Pat Rose. They take you through a little more detail with architectural site items.
Time, John.
Manny Silva.
Time to wrap.
Should have been in the A's door,
No.
he told me, but
Right about now.
he missed his flight and decided to hang out with me today.
To you.
No, just turn off automatically?
No.
Good evening, or good morning, or afternoon, I guess now. My name is Pat Rose, Rose Diesel Company, architect representing the owner and the applicant. And what I'd like to just quickly go through,
have done is, I think, very important that we have two entrances in this property that we can circulate around property. So there's no issue with fire access to the building. And we've got parking off of all of those areas. We've created, by twisting the building, we've created a green space where you can leave a buffer in this location and along this line. Recreation, passive recreation in this corner. And I've been able to accommodate 112 parking spaces. We have a garage door and garbage room at the lower level here. We have a chute within the building, so there's no dumpsters outside. It's all contained within the building and pulled out as needed. There's access to that actually with this driveway layout. The site itself slopes from this corner up to this corner, so that as you come in this driveway, you go up steeply to the second floor, actually, entrance here. The second floor entrance here, and then you come back around up to the high point, and then down, and this over here is the first floor entrance. So this building is split in half. As you have the low side, 4 stories, the high side, that's 3 stories. As you come up to the building, you see a 4-story facade here, it goes to 3 along here, and then comes back down to 4, turning back over here. It's essentially a 3.5-story building. The number of units, which we had, Stephen mentioned, we have 19 studio apartments that range from 560 square feet to 600. 22 one-bedroom units, which range from 660 square feet to 758 square feet, and then 15 one-bedrooms plus office, which are 833 square feet. The density I'd like to talk about real quickly, and looking at other projects that we've been involved with. The density at this project, being the 2.12 acres, 56 units, is 26.4 units per acre, or 1,650 square foot per unit. Look at the 309 Bridgeport Avenue project, the replacement, 1.25 acres usable, and 28 units, that's 22 units per acre, 1,946 square feet per unit. And lastly, the Beardsall Mill apartment building complex, where there are 3 acres and 89 units. That's 29.6 units per acre, and 1,468 square foot per unit. A little higher than what we're proposing. Building coverage, we're at 15%, we're at 14.7, so we're right there. Fully impervious is 60%, we're at 58.7. And a maximum floor area ratio of 60%, we're at 58.6. Front yard side and rear side setbacks for the R3. Our maximum height we're showing as 60 foot, but the average height to the highest roof, because it's a split level type building, split elevation, is 48 foot 3 inches. The tallest roof is sort of higher than that, 53 feet high, the tallest roof. But because it's 2 different levels, it's much less than that. Showing you the floor plans for the building. On this level, first floor level, where this portion here is into the grade. So that's why we created our gym, our tenant storage, meeting room, and our electrical and sprinkler rooms. But there are 8 units on this level. Our trash room is here. Door pickup chutes right here in this corner. We've got 1-bedroom units here and here, and a studio unit. And on these corners, all around the building, where we have a corner, that is a 1-bedroom plus office. Second floor, where we have the entrance from the second floor here on the higher parking lot. We end up with one-bedroom units here, studios here, studios in these corners, here, one here. And again, one bedroom plus office on every corner of the building. And the typical floor plan for 3 and 4, the same as really 2, except that these units are a little bigger because there's no entrance through them. Each one of these units has a deck, mechanical room on that deck. So there certainly is some ins and outs to the facade. Each one has a deck. They all have their own washer dryer within the unit. There's no central laundry room. It's all contained within the apartment. The elevations, Steve spoke about them fairly well. What we've done is to try and break up the building is, the ends of these buildings, where we have these gables, these are actually the one bedrooms plus office. And these corners, that sticks out, goes towards you, and then what we've done is break up the colors of the siding materials for this section, and then in the center, we've got stone and another color. Breaking out the roofs themselves, broken up into two roofs with these gables on the ends and smaller gables here, and we'll lower the roof actually at the entrance, break up the roof. 3-story elevation, obviously being very similar, you're coming around. You're coming around from the 4-story elevation and coming up to that 3-story elevation. We have brick, the stone in this location, color that represents entrance, just like this color represents the entrance. That color. And then this color on the building, and then color field, all of those decks that help break up the way the building. This is just another, Steve gave a representation of another building that's been done, but actually it's done in different colors of siding. Similar to what we're proposing, it's not the same type building exactly, but it has balconies, different colors of siding. Try and break up that building, like, just want something small. Can it go through breaking?
Good evening, my name is Manny Silva, civil engineer for the project, Connecticut in 35 Brentwood Avenue area. So as Pat was explaining, the grade on the site, the high point is essentially up here, and everything kind of slopes down towards Petremont Road. And as you can see, to try to attain our circulation around the building for fire access and just for overall circulation throughout the development, we have a driveway that comes in, has a steeper grade than, say, the more northerly driveway, which is flatter. But once you get up here to this platform, and this is the Santos Plaza here, which has a retaining wall, you come up, and this is the high point here, and you work your way around. So what we have is, right now the site is uncontrolled, so all water just sheds right to the west on Petremont Road, and then down to, River Road, and then there's a outfall here into the Houstonic River. So what we have is catch basins throughout the site with snouts in every single catch basin, which acts as like a skimmer, like the previous application, for oils and debris and floatables in each individual basin. We then direct that water to a stormwater separator, or a downstream defender type unit, which is a hydrodynamic separator. It slows the water down into little swirls, and then that water gets, that's all the floatables or anything, sand, grit, and things of that nature inside the water drops into this basin, so we have one point to actually come and clean, and that's where all the sediments will be. Prior to going into our gallery system, which is comprised of 688 linear feet of 4x4 concrete gallery. So what this does is basically, we have a control structure here that has a wall in it that stops the water from going off site. We treat the water so the quality of the water is high once it goes into the gallery system, and that's basically like a tank underneath the parking lot here where we hold the water and infiltrate it into the ground to further filter it, and that also is the end point of our treatment drain, so that we reduce the amount of volume that comes off the site from the existing condition today, and we also increase the water quality coming off the site. So the actual numbers, I don't have it, I have the numbers here in front of me. In your drain report is table 6. For the 5-year storm, we reduced the amount of runoff from the site by 0.8%. At the 10-year storm, we reduced it substantially at almost 30% from the existing condition. At the 20-year storm, we reduced it 42%. At the 50-year storm, we reduced it at around 30%. And at the 100-year storm, we reduced it at 1.3%. So what does that mean? That means that today, we have a amount of water coming off of this wooded area onto Tetremont Lane. After this development, we'll have a reduction from 30 to 40% less water onto Tetremont Lane, down to Rib Road, and out to the outfall of Lusitania River. So here's a detail of those galleries. Basically, just an underground void or a tank that lets water, that's open at the bottom, that lets water infiltrate into the ground. Here's our control structure, which is basically a wall that holds back the water until these fill up. And we have just a small orifice to meter out a certain amount of flow over time. So during construction, we have a soil erosion control plan. This is SP3. So during construction, we have to contain any sediments that is leaving the site on property. So we have a silt fence envelope, basically around the disturbed area. We then have 2 anti-traffic pads at the entrances, so that when trucks are on site and they come off, the mud gets knocked off the wheels and it stays here at the anti-tracking pad, and it doesn't track it into Tetremont Lane or River Road. We have silt sacks on every catch basin, and basically a silt sack is a piece of silt fence that has a steel rim, so that when water these are installed, they get before the pavement goes in. Water goes into the catch basins that has turbid or has mud or anything or rocks, gets caught in those silt sacks. So once the site is stabilized and paved, we take those silt sacks out, and the structures do not need cleaning because everything was caught in those sacks, and they're essentially brand new and ready to go and perform as they are intended. So that's basically our soil erosion control plan. We then have, a landscaping plan, which is basically some ornamentals around the island. We have some street trees here along the entrance driveways, some shade trees. I think these are some flowering dogwoods out here in front. And then we have some ornamentals in the corner with some small shade tree and then some small undergrowth.
Son of a bitch.
So we have our detailed plans, basically, standard details, signage, how you install the signage, your curbing, your anti-tracking pad, the standard details. This is our soil erosion control notes. Basically, here's that detail of the silt sack, how the silt fence that goes inside with the steel rim, and that traps all the sediment from going inside the catch basin and downstream. Here's our oil water grit separator that we have prior to the gallery going in. This will take out any oils, floatables, fine particles down to, I think it's like 2 microns, and then we'll have 1.2 basically come up and put it back up. Regular maintenance period, which will be in the operation maintenance. So that's basically it. You'll see that we have our snout system. This is our lighting plan. Basically, we did a photometrics plan to ensure that there's no light spillage outside of our property. These are points, basically, and you'll see there's 0.0 or 0, or around 0.0 right at the property line, and that we have lighting only basically around our parking lot and entrance areas with house side shields, and we use LED low profile fixtures with actual element inside, so that they don't get out. That's my presentation. So if you have any questions.
Could you, yes, that's part of Kusa?
Cornucopia is Korean dogwood, so it's like a smaller.
I know what it is, so
Okay.
you get this and go to it.
Yeah, we can use American dogwood or something
Yeah,
similar.
I'm sure you can get a cultivar that is resistant of the
Okay.
biggest tree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Any other commissioners participating remotely have any questions for any of the people that made the presentation?
Madam Chairman?
Go ahead, Mr. Panico.
I was just wondering, when looking at the floor plans, the vestibule areas don't seem to indicate any location for mailboxes and things of that sort. Is that something that was going to be considered?
Yeah, Mr. Rose is going to address that.
Yes, Mr. Panico, that's something that will be considered. We've got to decide which level we're going to do that at and carve out a piece for the mail delivery in a package.
Okay. Also, I recall in Attorney Bellis's presentation, he mentioned workforce housing. I didn't see any provisions for that in the statement of uses and standards, and I think we'll have to figure out a way of addressing it. I don't have a suggestion for you, but I think we need to address it in the statement as well. And the same would go at some point in time, although I did not see it on these final plans, there was some consideration for deferring some parking installation because of the general feeling of being an excessive amount of parking provided. But I don't see any mechanism in the statement of use and standards, and I don't see any more indication on your site plan. Now, as long as we get it into the statement of use and standards, we can work out the details later on.
Tony, it's Attorney Steve Bellis. I believe I addressed a 10% of the unit. I may have in the statement of uses. So it should be in there. Okay,
maybe I missed it, Steve. I went through it very quickly. We need to address it. I just want to get it. If it's not addressed, we'll need to address it. If it is, then that's fine.
Yeah, I put it there, but we can of course amend it.
Okay. Okay.
And secondly, Tony, what you are correct about the parking. You felt that there was extra parking that we could defer some of it in the future if need be. And I
think that's it.
To have the parking developed now for guests and whatnot, just to I guess we can go either way when we do the detailed development plans, but I just wanted to make clear, Tony, that we have the capability for 112 spaces.
Okay, no, that's fine, Steve. My only concern is if we get beyond the first level of approvals, I don't want to start having you fool around with a site plan and all of a sudden showing deferred parking when there's nothing in the statement of uses that says you have the right to do that. So I think we need to just put some words in the statement of uses. We can work out what that wording is, but we just need to make sure that it's enabled by what would be the zoning for the site.
Got it. Yeah. I guess before we conclude, I do have the traffic engineer here, Tony, so I was gonna have him address the traffic study that he prepared. That's all right.
You gotta wrap it up.
Okay, before you start, can I see the sign-up sheet, please? I'm gonna bring it back, let me just see how many we have here so far. Oh, all right, there's only one person here. Go ahead, sir, identify yourself.
Hi, Madam Chair, member of the commission. My name is Kermit Hua, from KWH Enterprise LLC, Meriden, Connecticut. I'm a registered professional engineer in Connecticut and have 23 years of experience in traffic engineering. The study I did for this development, I looked at the number of trips and area intersections, specifically the level of service and delays at area intersection operations. The 56 units are expected to generate peak hour trips of 20 trips for the morning peak hour and 25 trips for the afternoon peak hour. So that's the total in and out trips. You know, for the morning peak hour, we are looking at 5 vehicles coming in and 15 vehicles coming out. For the afternoon, we are looking at 15 vehicles coming in and 10 vehicles coming out. So, as an example, for the morning, we are looking at, if you stand at the driveways, looking at both driveways, you know, on average, you'll observe a car probably every 3 minutes, you know, if you sit there for an hour. So it's not a big traffic generator, which is typical for residential developments of this size. So that itself just indicated the limited trip generation or limited traffic impact of the development. So I looked at the several adjacent intersections because this study was prepared, you know, during a pandemic in June. The volumes were way lower. I reached out to DOT to see whether they have any recent traffic counts in the area. So the only counts I got from DOT was for the intersection of River Road and the Constitution Parkway South. I think that was done by another consultant for a technology office park further north on Constitutional Boulevard South several years back. So that number was for 2011. So I, based on area accommodations, applied a growth factor to that number and used the upstream volume from that intersection to estimate the other nearby intersections. And also went out to, you know, observe the traffic operation at those analyzed intersections. And so that's how I got those numbers for the analysis. Generally, including the two proposed side driveways, we are looking at a favorable level of operation, A, B, and C, on most traffic approaches. The two problematic approaches are the one of Coram Road at intersection of Constitution Boulevard South, especially in the afternoon peak hour, and also traffic coming out of Petramont Lane at the intersection of River Road. These are pre-existing conditions, and we will, you know, contribute very little in terms of site-generated traffic to area intersections. The applicant had some discussion with the town, you know, about the concerns of the two closely spaced intersections. One is the intersection Constitution Boulevard South and Coram Road, and the other is Coram Road and Petramont Lane, because these two are very closely spaced, and if you go out there to observe the traffic tower, and almost, you know, confusing which way to go, especially for people who want to use Petramont Lane. So, as a proposed improvement to address this issue, in the traffic report, I'm recommending converting the whole length of Petramont Lane between Coram Road and River Road into a one-way eastbound operation. In other words, at intersection
intersection of Ford Road and Petramount Lane, you can only enter or turn onto Petramount Lane. At the intersection of Petramount Lane and River Road, you can only exit. Just because at the River Road intersection, we have pretty wide roadway section. For Petramount Lane, we can afford one left turn lane and one right turn lane out of Petramount Lane onto River Road. So that, in my professional opinion, is an improvement to the traffic operation. I also looked at the traffic accident record for Petramount Lane over a 5-year period. I only, found 2 accidents recorded in those records, and doesn't seem to be any patterns of traffic accidents Petramount Lane. So overall, in summary, this is a low traffic generator. We're looking at 20 trips and 25 trips during peak hours, and I don't think this will produce a major traffic impact on area intersections. That's all I have, Madam Chair.
Okay. Thank you very much. Attorney Bellis, what else do you have for us?
A quick summary, and then we're done.
Okay. While Mr. Bellis is getting his materials together, are there any commissioners have any questions, comments, or concerns?
Yes, I do.
Commissioner Kelly,
Yeah. On making Petramount Lane one way, have you checked with your neighbors? In other words, there's an entrance
George Wilbur.
for Sterling's, pool and whatnot, very close to 110. Now, if they have to come out that way, they would have to go all the way to Constitutional Boulevard and then come around this way. Have you checked with them to make sure, okay, or?
I think this would be a two-part process. It's just, we're making the suggestion. It would have to go, we would then take it to the police department when we did our detailed development plan, and then we would consult all the neighbors in the city and get back to you about whether we think that, that could be implemented or not. At this time, it's just a suggestion that we would like to explore. If the commission felt that that's something that we should continue exploring. As I said to you before, this is just, the initial concept plan.
Okay, all right.
So we're not going to be approving anything that would be final at this time. So that would give us an opportunity to explore this with both our local police and our neighbors.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, go ahead, Attorney Bellis, with your summary.
Yeah. I just think that, that this piece would be, an ideal piece for an apartment, because it's in a part of town that's now, it's near, Route 110 and close to Sikorsky and the Merritt. The piece it is a transition piece from commercial to residential, and it's tucked away, so that it's not really going to be seen, and with little traffic being produced onto our, roads that can handle it. We have to Route 110 that can handle it. As I said before, you're gonna have one side of the building facing Petramount, and so it will not look like, from the Petramount side, it will look more in character of the neighborhood. It meets all the requirements, for a PDD in section 34. I'm not gonna go through it, but I think I've articulated it. So we do meet the requirements of our own zoning regs. The site plan, I think, works well for 56 units because there's a lot of studios in this building. And more likely than not, you're gonna have one person living in a studio. Not necessarily, but more likely than not. And they're gonna have one car. The one bedrooms may have one or two people. If you took an average, you could make that maybe 1.5 cars. And there's no 2-bedroom units. So, I think having 2 parking spaces is more than that. In fact, Tony suggested maybe a little bit too much, but I always like to err on the side that you have guest parking and you have parking. So, what Tony was suggesting that perhaps if we wanted to, we could, reserve some of the spaces, so that they could be built in the future if needed. But if the commission felt we should just build them out now, I have no problem with that. I agree with what Karen and Jody said. There are people that will like downtown for its walkability, access to bars and restaurants, but there's others that don't like that. And they would like something where they just get in their car without being in a parking garage, and hopping on the Merritt Parkway, going to work. And on this end of town, there aren't any apartments. We have them certainly on Bridgeport Avenue, and Huntington, but we don't have them down on the south end. So I think that this would be welcome. The building itself, I think, is something that has the washer and dryer, it's got a gym, it's got an area that's on the frisbee or a ball, and I think that young professionals would like this building. I think that the traffic can be absorbed quickly, and the issue of the one-way can be further discussed, as I just said, with Mr. Kelly, with the local police and our neighbors, and I can report back to you when we do our detailed development plan. But having said that, there's no problem with the way the layout is currently. If the town would like us to pave from our property up to Quorum, that would be something that we would be agreeable to doing, to make it consistent with what you had the other developer do up to our property. So I want to make that clear, that we would be willing to do that. As far as the workforce, Tony hit on it. We are proposing a 10% of the units. That's we'll just round it up to 6 units, because you can't have 5.6, but 6 units would be workforce, which would mean that they're a little more affordable for people. So I think that the price range that we're at is good. I think it would be a little better for those people that work in town or have income levels that would justify that. So I think the last point I'd like to make is I think that this project is one that if you approve it, it will be built. It's something that's feasible, not like some of the other sites that are very difficult, not to get on other projects, but some of them are difficult topography-wise or whatever. This would be built, and I think it would, once it's built, it would blend in, and like a lot of these projects, there's apprehension when you're going in, but once they're up and they're landscaped and the people are kind of quiet that live there, they're not going to be very noticeable. And as I said, would it be a benefit to the town? Yeah, 2 reasons. One, it gives people on that end of town, an apartment building, get to work quickly, and the taxes would be beneficial to the town on a yearly basis, help fund other projects in town. So that's my pitch. If you have a question for me, I'll be glad to take it, but otherwise, that would be the end of our presentation.
One of the things that we normally do ask and was, you have concerns you have about snow removal. There's sufficient space on the outside of the property,
Yeah.
in your boundaries.
Yeah, as I said, this is the initial concept plan, but we will take that into consideration when we do our detailed development plans. We plan on plowing this, obviously, for the residents, and we'll make an area so that you can push off your snow. We'll make an area for the mailboxes, as Tony had said. As I said, I consider this initial concept plan. The detailed plan would include the things that Jenny just mentioned and Tony, and I'm well aware of those, being important.
Okay, so, Commissioner Figueroa, Commissioner Parkins, any comments, questions, concerns?
Yeah, actually, I had indicated previously to Commissioner Parkins that I had a couple questions, and then the presentation kind of resumed. So I know we're running a little bit late on time. Do you want to hold my questions until the next? I assume this meeting is public hearing will be kept open on this, or do you want me to go now?
I don't mind answering any questions.
Attorney Bellis will answer the questions. Go ahead.
Okay, so a couple of questions. I assume this is going to be all electric utilities in this So are there any energy conservation measures being considered other than the LED outdoor lighting that's been indicated? That's one question. Are there any handicapped accessible units? It does not appear so on the layout. Is it a pet-friendly complex? And if so, is there any area being considered for a dog park, et cetera, a walking area? Also, I did not hear the term luxury apartments used in any of the presentations. So I'm kind of questioning with the minimal amenities that are being offered, I'm kind of questioning the rent, and I'm not quite sure how the rents that are being anticipated compared to downtown or some of the other luxury buildings that are in Shelton. And what's that?
Go ahead, Bruce.
The only other question I had was there any consideration to putting in one layer of underground parking or level parking to eliminate some of all of that blacktop that's going to be there? That's it.
That's enough, isn't it?
Thank you very much. Go ahead, Attorney Bellis.
I'm trying to do it from memory, so my memory will
I have
start
it
with the
listed.
last question first. The answer is no, we're not gonna put parking under the building. A couple of reasons. It would force the building up high in the air, and we have more than enough parking. Now, what Tony was suggesting, Bruce, was perhaps some of it could stay green, and if we needed it later, we could pave those areas that needed additional parking, and if you didn't need the additional parking, we would open up more green space. So I think that answers that. I didn't use the word luxury. I've been building for 30 years. The houses that I have built in complexes have probably the best trim that I've seen from any of the builders in this area. So these would be trimmed out to look very, very nice. They would have granite. I just take all that for granted. I don't know that I consider that luxury. I consider it something that we would automatically incorporate into the building units. Stainless steel, all the amenities that you would have to make it first class. The lobby was made to look so that it has a wow factor when you come in. So I apologize if I didn't use the word luxury, but again, those things I thought was discussed in the new detailed development plan is not really now. As far as pets, again, I think we'll consider what you said. I know that a lot of single people have the small dogs. They call them,
Lap dog.
Lap dog. Yeah, emotional, right?
Emotional.
I don't think so. We may consider that, and I would consider like a walking area. Again, I think we'll do that with the detailed development plan. As far as the
Handicap.
Heating and air conditioning. Heating and air conditioning rooms that we have, currently we've shown mechanical rooms on the outside. They haven't really gotten into the detail, there's doing multiple projects where we're just using heat pumps and it's just all electric. But people are still also doing, gas-fired furnaces, which are efficient, but, it's something we haven't gotten into the weeds yet. Accessibility, there will be accessible units. All of it's an elevator service, so all of the units have to be type B units, and a percentage of them will be type A units, which we would show.
So you're saying basically by default?
Yes, by default, by code, we have to do
Okay.
that. Energy conservation, the way buildings are constructed now to the energy code, they're extremely tight and extremely well insulated. You're talking R49 on the roof, R27 on the wall. It's very well done just by current code standards.
Okay. Anything else, Commissioner Perkins?
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Dickey?
I have no further questions for today.
Thank you, Commissioner Amato. No, Commissioner Kelly? And, all right, let's, move into the public portion. First one is Don Kuby.
Hello. Good afternoon. My name is Don Cupey. I live on 500 River Road, down the hill there where the new condominiums are. I have 3 observations, 3 comments, my own unprofessional point of view. They concern Petromont Road. I was happy to see the slide very early of 1812 Petromont Road. If you've been there recently, that's what it still looks like. 2 cars cannot pass on Petromont Road, and as you drive up it, there's a beautiful view of the garbage from the residents that live on the, I guess, the south side of the road. It's not pleasant. To me, it's not even, shouldn't even be considered a legal road. So point number 1 is Petromont Road right now isn't even wide enough for 2 cars to pass. Point number 2, you go up to the top where Quorum and Constitution meet. It's a very dangerous intersection. If you're coming down Constitution, to get on Petromont, you have to make a quick left and pray that no one's behind you going real quick because it's coming down the hill. Then you got to make a quick right to get on Petromont. It's not a direct access. It's a dangerous, very dangerous intersection. I shudder to think what it would be like with more traffic. And number 3, I moved to Shelton 2 years ago, and my first venture up our road, up to River Road, I looked left, I looked right, and I pulled out, and I damn near got hit by a car going 90 miles an hour on River Road Speedway. Very, very dangerous intersection. The thing that saves it now is how little traffic uses Petromont. Come out of River Road, you virtually can't see. On every other day, there's a 16-wheeler from Talalay that's parked on River Road, so you can't even see what's coming up the hill. I could not see doing anything on Petromont without a traffic light. It's a very dangerous intersection. And I just, when I first heard about this development, I could see, gee, it'd be nice to have an apartment house. Maybe they're going to exit on Quorum Road or something like that. When I heard Petromont Lane, I said, there's no way in the world unless major work gets done on that road. So those are my comments.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Kuby. Next is Susan Colberg.
I also have a question for Lois Bryant next time, unless she had to go on time. But first I had 2 questions. One was, I was concerned with how they were gonna level the land, if they were gonna allow blasting of this. I was afraid of the effect it would have on the house that I'm currently living in, which is at 275 Quorum Road. And with the other developments, we felt the shock quite keenly. The other question I had, was, my cousin George who sold the land said that they had done an engineering survey and that there was so much ledge and from the 2 springs and those small swamps that they could only build small houses. But, so I was wondering if their water drainage plan included the drainage from the naturally occurring water. And then Lois said that, her comment was that the north side of the property, the zoning was still R3. She said, I'm not positive about that, but she is. She was the she said it. And those are my concerns.
Okay, thank you very much. So Lois Bryant has left. She's gone.
Yes.
Okay.
She had an appointment.
Yep, that's fine. So, she was number 3, and the last person that signed up was Jim Linden.
I'm president of the homeowners association for Water's Edge, which is a condominium association that's right across River Road from Petromont Lane. And I wanted to echo Don Kuby's comments about any exits onto Petromont Lane. It truly does not allow for two cars to go by. If you're coming by Petromont Lane, if there's another car coming, at a certain point, you have to pull over almost into the parking lot to allow that car to go by. It's inconceivable to me that there'd be two exits from this apartment unit going on to Petromont Lane. It's simply not built to handle that kind, even if the volume is low. What I'd like to suggest is that hopefully the board will require the builder to widen Petromont Lane. Now, I know there are other ramifications involved with that, but I think before they go forward, they have to seriously consider widening Petromont Lane if they really want to exit onto that road. Thank you.
Okay, you're very welcome. All right, if there aren't any further comments, questions, or concerns, I'll entertain a motion to keep the public hearing open.
Commissioner Ticky, I'll move.
And
For
there's
second.
a motion from Commissioner Dickey and Commissioner Amato, would you like to second?
I'll second.
Commissioner Amato has seconded, so there's a motion to keep the public hearing open for application 20-12, made by Commissioner Dickey and seconded by Commissioner Amato on a roll call. Commissioner Kelly?
Aye.
Commissioner Parkins? Commissioner Amato?
Aye.
Commissioner Dickey?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. All right, is there a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn from Commissioner Amato, and Commissioner Kelly, you're seconding it?
Yep.
Okay, on the roll call, Commissioner Amato?
Aye.
Commissioner Dickey?
Aye.
Commissioner Kelly?
Aye.
Commissioner Parkins? Aye, and the chair votes aye. The meeting is adjourned